All right, it's 9 o'clock on this Monday night. Welcome to our continuing coverage of President Trump's D.C. takeover. We are streaming live on Fox Local and Fox 5 DC's YouTube page right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to weigh in, just jump in that comment section and we'll read them coming up a little later. I'm producer Chris, and each night, if you have been following along over the past month or so, we've been recapping some of the major developments during this federal surge and highlighting some of our Fox 5 coverage. And we are down to what could be the final 48 hours of the president's emergency takeover. However, that does not mean the federal surge is coming to an end. We'll break all of that down coming up over the next 20 minutes or so. And today, we heard a message from Mayor Muriel Bowser, a message to anyone looking to take advantage of the president's crime emergency coming to an end this week. We also heard from President Trump, who was showering praise on DC's mayor. He also talked about the success of his crime crackdown here in the nation's capital. We'll hear from both of them coming up in just a minute. First, though, let's do what we always do and take you to the latest numbers. These ones coming from from the Attorney General, Pamela Bondi. 72 additional arrests made yesterday in Washington, D.C., including another suspected gang member. Our law enforcement partners continue to make D.C. safe again. You see the other side of that graphic right there. As of September 8th, today, since this federal surge began back in early August, 2,120 arrests, 214 illegal guns seized. So, those are the latest numbers. But the big story today, of course, the final 48 hours of the president's emergency order. That is where we stand right now. It's set to expire on September 10th. But like I said, that doesn't mean D.C. residents or visitors should expect to see a reduction in National Guard members or the number of federal agents in the streets of D.C. They will be sticking around. The end of the 30-day emergency period means the mayor will no longer be compelled to provide D.C. police to help with the president's crackdown. Remember, the two different parts of the president's original emergency declaration, the 30-day takeover applied to his takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department and putting them under federal jurisdiction. However, the mayor did send a warning today that the end of this emergency declaration is not a green light for crime. Take a listen.
On Wednesday, the House Oversight Committee is going to take up 14 bills, all dealing with the District of Columbia. The last one, the 14th, is the Attorney General Reform Act. What kind of a threat do you see that as to home rule, that bill that they're going to take up?
Well, I won't talk individually because there's a lot of them and I don't want to mix them up in my head, but all of them would be an affront to home rule. We believe that our laws affecting the district should be made by the district.
If I could follow up. Tomorrow is the end of the 30 days. Are you going to ask Chief Smith to rescind her executive order?
We'll have more to say about the presidential emergency later in the week. Yep.
Mayor, over the weekend there was an arrest of a Howard University student, and it prompted the university to put out a statement just about how students, if they're feeling anxious about all the federal agents, should be interacting with police if they're pulled over or stopped. I'm just wondering, we have students back. I know they've been back a couple weeks now, but any message to them if they're on campus and feeling anxious?
Well, my message is the same to everybody, students alike. We want everybody to follow the rules and follow the law, and we want to make sure we have a safe city. We don't want to be overtaken by anybody from the outside, but people should be following the law. Yep. Who's next? Yep, right here. Coming. Oh, okay.
Mayor, you can't see me back here.
Okay.
It's Josh from Channel 7.
All right, I can hear
know,
you now.
I know Paul asked this a little bit, but can you speak of your vision a little bit once the National Guard leaves after 30 days? Like, what does September 11th look like? I know you said you want to give another update in a few days, but.
And I will. I will.
Okay.
Yep.
And for Director Crow.
What's your question?
My question for Director Crow is, there's an FBI investigation going on in your department right now, an Inspector General Office investigation, your own internal investigation into claims of selling bogus cosmetology license out the back door over a year ago. I wanted to know what your department has done to make sure that isn't happening.
We're happy to have somebody follow up with you. Yep.
Mayor Bowser, can you just kind of clarify, because folks, I know you keep saying you're going to talk about it later.
And I
but
will.
There are folks that are wondering, with the National Guard likely staying in place unless the courts or the president say differently, what is it going to look like for the people working and living in the district? Are we still going to see federal agents and officers being able to stop people?
Yes, federal agents and officers have always been able to stop people. They have arrest authority in the district, and that won't change.
So the capacity that we're seeing it happen now, this will likely be the same after the president ends.
I don't know what you mean by that, but we will continue, as my mayor's order lays out, partnerships with the federal government that are strategic for public safety in the district.
So what exactly changes then after the president ends his federal emergency?
The MPD is not compelled to provide MPD services as directed by the president. That's what changes.
So can you just, because this question was also asked before and there was some confusion. So immigration, MPD is still going to do immigration, so basically it's going to be the same thing that we're seeing now.
I know who said that. Check my mayor. Listen, I know it's sometimes people get confused or they don't read the mayor's order or they don't forget about it, but it's laid out what federal agencies we work with. It's not confusing. So I'm not going to turn this into a re-explainer of my mayor's order. I've done it. I'm not going to do that. So please, the agencies that are outlined, and I know you have this information, and we want to make it perfectly clear to everybody. All of those agencies, ICE is not included on that list. So just be clear about that. And what ends when the federal emergency ends is the requirement per the Home Rule Charter that the DC mayor provides, is compelled to provide MPD services at the president's request pursuant to federal purpose during the emergency. That is what changes. All right, I just answered you.
People who are concerned and afraid about coming into the district, going to work, going to restaurants, they're still likely going to see groups of DC police working with federal agents who may or may not be masked, making this.
MPD will continue to work with our federal agencies as we've always done in ways that are strategic for public safety. This is what I know DC residents don't want, and I want to make this perfectly clear to those people who might be doing or wanting to do crime in the district. It's still illegal. Okay? Shooting somebody, still illegal. Committing carjackings, still illegal. Stealing from stores, still illegal. That won't change on September 11th. It'll be illegal. Thank you.
So that was Mayor Muriel Bowser speaking today at a special event here in the district, reiterating what happens when the president's emergency order, the 30-day emergency order, ends, what comes next, making sure people know that crime is still illegal here in D.C. There have been 7 homicides in the city since the 30-day takeover began. Marina Morocco will have more on that coming up in just a little bit, including some of the other crime-related stats related to the president's takeover over the course of the last month or so. Now, at the same time the mayor was speaking, President Trump was also speaking. He was at the Museum of the Bible here in Washington, D.C., and he talked about the success of his crime crackdown here in the nation's capital. We're going to hear from him coming up after a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. right, welcome back to our continuing coverage of President Trump's D.C. takeover as we approach the final 48 hours. It's now about 12 minutes after 9 o'clock, and like I said, we are down to the final 48 hours, which means we are also down to our final few shows covering this federal surge and President Trump's D.C. takeover, because the emergency order is set to expire on Wednesday. Earlier tonight, we let you hear from Mayor Muriel Bowser. She talked about what comes next, why the federal surge will still be in effect, but the Metropolitan Police Department will no longer be compelled to answer to President Trump. We also heard from President Trump today, though. He was at the Museum of the Bible for a special event. He talked about his crime crackdown. He talked about some of the success. He talked about possibly expanding it to other cities besides the nation's capital. He also had some praise for the city's mayor. I want you to take a listen to what he said.
And we'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out. You know, Washington, D.C., you'll be happy to know, is a free and safe zone. It's so safe right now. It was one of the most dangerous. Can you believe it? So, you know, you see the beautiful buildings, but we're going to also do an upgrade because a lot of the beautiful buildings have a little graffiti on them. They have roads that aren't proper. They have medians that are bad and falling down into the road, the dividers. We have things that we have to take care of and beautify. We want to beautify it. Very little work will be done. I'm very good at that. That's what I really did the best in life, probably. I said, was I a better builder or politician? They said, I think you were a better builder, sir. I said, I didn't know if I was happy about that or not. But I was a really good builder, and I'll fix this place up for peanuts. I'll fix it up. We'll put in new dividers. You ever notice they're all rotted, rusting, and falling down on the road? Potholes all over the place. We're going to have this place looking beautiful within 12 months. Even the little white tiles in the tunnels. You know, you go through the tunnels, and there's the little white tiles that have been up for about 60 years, and, like, there's pieces missing. And you can't match them, believe me, you can't. You try and match them, it never works. You can't. They've been up 60 years. You don't get the same batch no matter what you do. But we'll take all those tiles off, and you're going to have beautiful white tile tunnels again, and everything's going to be really the way it should be. Because when foreign leaders come, you know, I had to take down the tents. We had over 58 tent cities that we took down right in the middle of our parks, right next to our great buildings, Supreme Court. You'd have a tent city right there, and nobody would ever tell them to do it. We had a blue tent right on Lafayette, and they seemed to have a permit. And one of the fake news media was asking me the other day, what about the blue tent? What blue tent? Because all the tents you got, somehow these people were very well connected with the communist cause. And I said, there's a tent up there? Really? Yeah. And he was a friendly reporter for a change. He said, it's terrible that the tent. I said, I didn't know that. I'm surprised. And I checked, and there was. And we got it down very quickly. It's down. It's down. Wasn't easy. People chained themselves to a tree and this and that, but that's okay. They can chain themselves if they want. That was a tough one. That's been there for years. It's been there for many years. We took it down. Came down very quickly, Pam. So I hope Attorney General Bondi will be looking into some of these things, and I really know that some of them she is. She's done such an incredible job. You know, she's got a lot of pressure on her not to do these things by a certain group of people that I guess don't love our country, or there's some ideology that they're just indoctrinated with. But she's going to do a fantastic job, and we're waiting for a call from Chicago. We'll fix Chicago. And again, D.C. is right now so safe you can go out. Friends of mine called, one in particular, he's been in D.C. for a long time. And he said, I haven't gone out in 4 years for dinner with my wife. The restaurants were all closing because people were afraid, even if they were in the restaurant, it didn't matter. They were held up. You know, guys would walk in with guns into a restaurant. And that's over. It's not happening. It's now safe. And this man said, I've gone out to dinner in the last week and a half 4 times. And I am so safe. My wife could meet me at the restaurant. She could walk by herself. There's zero threat. The National Guard working with the police, working with the mayor. The mayor has, you know, that's not her ideology. And now I think it maybe is her ideology. She's taking a lot of heat, too, from the radical left. You know, they don't like that she's allowing it. But look, she's going to either allow it or we'll just do it because, you know, it's just. But she understands that. She understands that. But I can tell you the people of D.C. are thrilled. I have never had so many people. The other day I had a big scrum in front of me of the press. And I said, you know, everybody here, or many of you have been mugged, right? And they're all going like, and these aren't people necessarily on our side. They're all going, yes, yes, yes. What about you? Yes, it's true. I was a couple of times. Every one of them. It's crazy. Not going to happen anymore. So right now we went from one of the most, and some people say the worst, the most violent city. Can you imagine our capital being the most violent city? But it was really bad, into a totally safe zone. It's called a safe zone city. There's no crime. They said crime's down 87%. I said, no, it's more than 87%. Virtually nothing. And much lesser things that take place in the home they call crime. You know, they'll do anything they can to find something. If a man has a little fight with the wife, they say this was a crime, see? So now I can't claim 100%. But we are a safe city. You can walk to a restaurant. You can walk to the White House if you work there. You can walk to the Capitol. And even the Democrats say, I can't believe it, but they don't want to admit it, but I can't believe it. We could do the same thing in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. We did it. We saved Los Angeles. We saved Los Angeles, Dan. You know that. Los Angeles was a mess. If we didn't send our troops in, Gavin Newsom would have had a real problem. We sent our troops. The head police officer, the top person, said we could have never done this alone. We sent our troops right in at the beginning, and we killed it. And it was nasty, but we killed it immediately. And I don't know why Chicago isn't calling us saying, please give us help. When you have, over just a short period of time, 50 murders and hundreds of people shot, and then you have a governor that stands up and says how crime is just fine. It's really crazy. But we're bringing back law and order to our country.
All right, so that was President Trump today speaking at the Museum of the Bible. You heard him talking about the success of his crackdown on crime here in the nation's capital. You also heard him talking about his plans to possibly extend that crime crackdown to other cities like Chicago. You also heard the president mention that tent in Lafayette Park that he had removed, and that's what you're looking at right now. If you were watching Friday night, you may have seen we played the clip of that interaction with a reporter that he talked about. But the thing is, that tent is actually a peace vigil that stood outside the White House for more than 40 years. President Trump ordered the park police to clear it away over the weekend, calling it part of an effort to remove homeless encampments. But volunteers say it's not a shelter at all. It was a protest against nuclear arms and a call to end global conflicts. They claim it's protected by the First Amendment, and its removal is a civil rights violation. So we will stay on top of that and see what happens. Now, earlier today on the DMV zone, Fox 5's Marina Morocco talked to the team from Axios about what happens when the emergency order expires, what's happening on Capitol Hill, some of the bills in place to try to extend the takeover of Washington, D.C. and make it even more permanent, the city's latest homicide, which happened over the weekend, the crime stats, and much more. Take a listen.
Axios reporter Janae Dill with the more. Janae, late last night, the White House releasing a video of a victim's mother saying that this is the appropriate action for D.C. given where crime stands. What do we know at this hour of this surge and how things will progress?
There's still about 2,300 National Guard members on D.C. streets, and this is the ongoing federal surge. Part of it will be drawn back down in a sense because on Wednesday, President Trump's takeover of the police department will end. It'll hit its 30-day mark. Congress does not intend to extend that, and so the police force will go back fully to local control, it appears. We're going to see how the dynamic plays out, though, between the mayor and the president when it comes to crime. Will the president still have requests that his team will make to the city? That's probably going to happen. But for just in terms of one angle, the police force, that takeover will end on Wednesday. But if you're looking at the National Guard, they are sticking around, it seems, at least through Thanksgiving, possibly into December is what we're seeing in reports right now.
The mayor, by announcing this sort of parallel task force, if you will, what's the sense? I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it seems as though she's not fighting back against the extended presence of guardsmen here in D.C.
No, she's not fighting back, and she's hoping that this cooperative tone will essentially, make the White House, the whole thing is, how do we diffuse this situation from the mayor's point of view? And she thinks cooperation is the way to do it. And so one thing I'm seeing a lot of is talk about how can the National Guard going forward focus on beautification projects, things in the community that they can do. People around us, everyone's talking about what are the Guard doing, what exactly is their mission, and I guess one example that they're trying to focus them on is beautification in the district now.
Okay, so we've seen this extension continues on that regard, but this federal takeover review ends on Wednesday. What do we know about crime statistics right now? Have we seen the drastic lowering of these numbers?
It was the seventh homicide since the takeover began last night, when a man was shot and killed yesterday afternoon. And crime overall has gone down. If you look at the stats, year over year, homicides are down 17% right now. And violent crime overall is down 27%. So crime has decreased. Arrests have gone up a little bit. We want to look at the full numbers. We're trying to put together something at the 30th day mark for looking at how arrests have gone up since the takeover. But crime dipping is the main takeaway right now.
I mean, it seemed as though homicides, and my math could be wrong, but it was about every other day there was a homicide. If you're saying 7 in a 30-day period, that's averaging less than 2 a week.
But there you go. And homicides are still sort of elevated. The pace they're going on, the pace they're going at for the rest of the year, they seem like they'll. We're not going to hit the lows or the relative lows that we had in the mid 2010s, but trending lower. And part of that is, I think, we can say attributable to this federal surge.
All right. What about ICE enforcement? There's been a lot of talk about ICE enforcement heading now to other cities, primarily Chicago. Is that something that we're going to see ICE out of D.C. now?
Well, so the thing is that this is completely up to the feds, how they decide to allocate their federal officers, and ICE being one of them. So whether we see them now go into other cities and take officers out of D.C., we're not sure, but the feds have wide latitude to use their officers how they want. So nothing about the crime emergency ending D.C. will necessarily impact, I think, ICE enforcement. But it is a resource, the situation. So do they have the resources to keep it up in D.C. if they're sending them elsewhere? We're going to have to see. It's really fluid, and which city gets the influx in terms of ICE, we're going to have to see what happens there as well this month.
Any news on all the bills that are sitting right now on Capitol Hill to kind of make this a more permanent situation?
Yeah, so Wednesday there's going to be a big committee vote on some of these bills. There are quite a few bills actually in the House committee, and they're coming up for a vote. The D.C. Council just today sent a letter asking for most of them to be basically struck down, but the Republicans are going to go forward with them, and there are quite a lot of provisions, one including rolling back some criminal justice reforms, such as allowing police chases to take place for officers to pursue vehicles with suspects, and just a whole lot of other things, one being the Attorney General would be appointed by the president, not locally elected, if these bills make it through Congress eventually.
All right, and we know that Brian Schwab wants to seek re-election in that position. Okay, Janae Dill with Axios, with all that is happening now. We appreciate the latest there from D.C. Thank you.
All right, so we saw some critics of the federal occupation hitting the streets of D.C. over the weekend as well. That's the video you're looking at right now. We could see another round of protests tomorrow because students from 4 D.C. universities plan to walk out of class to send a message to the White House about this federal occupation. However, the White House maintains that D.C. residents support the president's mission to make the city safe again. You heard Marina mention in that interview with Axios about the White House video they published last night with one woman's story about crime in D.C. and the message that she's sending to critics of the president's crackdown. I want you to take a listen to that.
You know, they got this old slogan out, they say, if you want to get away with murder, kill them in D.C. That's a slogan, that's the street slogan. Every time I turn around, there's another shooting, there's a murder. In the district, they killing and walking away with minimum time. See, D.C., they need everything that Trump is doing. I don't care what they say about him. Fix it. My name is Felicia Cook, and I've been a D.C. resident for since I was born there in 1956. On April the 23rd, that's when Marty went missing. I went downstairs and he wasn't there. I said, well, I'm gonna call his job and see if he's been to work, because I know how excited he was about the job. And the people said at work that he hadn't been to work. When I hung up the phone, it's kind of like I knew something was wrong. Meantime, my daughter coming up here every Friday, and she going through everything he had downstairs. And she found out his last conversation was with some girl he had met on Plenty of Fish. He went to visit her, and he never came back home. That's all he was doing, was going on a date. That was it. He shot that boy 7 times. He overkilled him, cold blood. He didn't give him a chance. My grandson was 23 years old. Just getting his life together, man. My grandson's life did matter. And I live with that pain every day. What are you telling the victims? We don't matter, the criminals matter more. The Democrats didn't do it. I stood in front of the Department of Justice. I talked to Mayor Boss. They heard his story. They knew it. They saw us out there crying. Never did nothing. We have to live with this for the rest of my life. Ooh, I'm so glad. Somebody's finally hearing him. The man is doing something right. It's time for it. I don't care what you say. Be mad at me. Be mad at me. Somebody's finally trying to do something to make it better. You wanted to clean up? You wanted to stop? Let them killers know you mean business. Thank you. Thank you so much, because at least it brings some soothing to my pain to know that somebody cares. And somebody somewhere cares. And I don't want this to happen to nobody else.
All right, so that was the video posted by the White House on social media last night. Now, coming up tonight on Fox 5 at 10 and 11, Fox 5's Sharon Roger will have more on the emergency declaration expiration, what comes next. She'll share more of the mayor's message and some of the pushback that she continues to get from critics who say that she is not doing enough to stand up for the city and stand up to the White House and President Trump. Josh Rosenthal is going to talk to the photographer behind the new book that is giving Washington football fans a never-before-seen look into the franchise's past. And this all comes as construction crews continue the demolition at RFK Stadium here in the nation's capital. For now, though, it's 9:30, so we are going to turn you over to Live Now in Progress. I'm producer Chris. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Fox 5 News at 10 coming up on Fox Local and Fox 5 in just about 29 minutes. See you tomorrow.
Can in the name of trying to be in opposition to Donald Trump and ultimately to try to assassinate him.
Opening statements are expected to begin Thursday, and the trial is scheduled to last up to 4 weeks. In Fort Pierce, Florida, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Yeah, we will continue to track this story here as the trial does.